Hey everyone, it's Bethany. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I am making some really cute end of the school year cards for the teachers, and I also need to make a retirement card for a teacher as well. So I'm using this cute stamp set. Everything will be linked down below. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in one of these crayons and go add this to cart right now because I'm going to show you two cards that you can create with this stamp set, and I'm sure that I could think of at least two more. Maybe 24 more. This is such a cute set, and we're going to do so much coloring today. Warning, everything turns out so cute. So just get ready for a really fun little crafty video. Okay, so I am using Memento Tuxedo Black ink. I'm using this because I am going to later pull out my Copic markers and do some Copic coloring. So I know I want to choose an ink that will play friendly with Copics, and that is this ink for me. All right, I am going to go ahead and use this same stamp to stamp all the way down my paper. Now I am going to end up cutting these out with the coordinating die, so it really doesn't matter where I place these. I'm just giving myself enough room to use the die to cut them out and to color. Then I'm going to take my 80-pound cardstock. I am going to go ahead and trim that down to 4 by 5 1/4. That way my panel has a 1/8 inch margin around my entire little panel here. And I love that look. I just think it's nice and subtle, but it has just a really tiny border. Okay, this sentiment is so darling. It says, "You color my world." It's so sweet and so perfect for this card. I love everything about this. So I'm going to use that same ink, and I'm going to actually stamp this 3 times just to make sure that I have it nice and bold to match the lines on my crayons that I just stamped out earlier. I love how this looks, and I am actually just stamping this right onto my final panel. Later, I'm going to be putting the crayons onto my panel with some foam tape, but I knew I wanted my sentiment to be flat on the panel just like that. So nice and simple. I'll be sure to put all of my Copic colors down in the description box below, but I am going to just go ahead and do a little rainbow of crayons here. And I'm using the pink in substitution to my red. I just really like that look. And I'm going back and forth between my colors just to do some shading, and I really, really love how everything turned out. Okay, side note on the voiceovers. So lately I've had to do quite a few voiceovers because of something super exciting. So my husband is finishing up my craft room in terms of he's putting my French doors in. So I didn't want to take some time off and not inspire you. So instead I am crafting while he is getting everything installed. It's quite noisy. So this is just my happy medium of being able to still create for you, but also to be able to not have it super noisy in the background. So I am going to be back at live video recording super soon, so don't worry, this isn't a permanent thing, but sometimes it's actually really nice for me because I can just be still, kind of just be nice and quiet, and I don't know, it's just some nice downtime, especially when coloring. It's just such a calming way to just spend my evening, so I love it. Okay, again, don't worry, I won't leave you hanging on these colors because I really love how everything turned out. All the tones just were beautiful. It's nice and playful and summery as well as we're kicking off summer. So everything will be linked down below. You'll find every single color that I use. So check in that description box if you want to recreate any of this or add some new Copics to your collection. So I mentioned this earlier, I have trouble using the blender to correct any mistakes that I use. So I've been using a white gel pen for a while now. It is so easy, so quick, and if I get any little areas colored out of the lines, which usually when I'm going fast or if I'm doing multiple cards, which you'll see me do later because I'm going to recreate this card 3 more times. I love how it turns out so much that I have to recreate it 3 more times. But anyway, back to the gel pen. You just simply run it over those areas and it's good as new again. So it's perfect. It's a beautiful solution for coloring out of the lines, which we all do sometimes, right? I'm going to trim these apart because now I'm going to bring that coordinating die in and I want to get each and every crayon all trimmed out. This is a perfect project for my little mini die cut machine. So I went ahead and brought that out, and I'm individually just going to get each color all trimmed out and ready to go for the next process. So again, this turns out so cute that I decided, because sometimes I take a stamp set, right? And I want to create a few different varieties of cards with that stamp set, but once I saw how this first card turned out, I knew I wanted to recreate it exactly for each of the teachers. And then I'm going to show you a second card with a completely different design using the same stamp set, of course, but we're going to do something for a retiring teacher, which I'm super excited about because that one's super cute as well. Okay, again, I have my stamped panel. Now I'm simply going to take these crayons and I'm just going to scatter them around my card. I'm going to be intentional about having some of the crayons go off to the side because I want to trim those off. It's a really fun way to style a little card, having some run off the side and give a nice blunt edge. So it's going to turn out super cute. Just throw your crayons on your panel and see where it goes. I tried to keep them in more of a rainbow order because I really think that's pleasing to the eye, but you really can't go wrong here. Then I'm going to grab these little foam squares. I used the tinier of the foam squares towards the tip of the crayon, but then I used 2 of the larger foam squares towards the kind of base of the crayon, I guess you could say, or the body of the crayon, and that seemed to work out really, really well. They were very sturdy and nice. All right, so I'm just gonna put all of these around the card. I have to say I'm really proud of my coloring. I have been really focusing lately on being intentional about what colors I'm using and what I'm blending and just a little bit more technique. They really do mean that practice makes, I don't want to say perfection, right? It's not about being perfect, but practice certainly makes progress. And for me and Copics, I am really enjoying seeing the progress that I'm making from all this practicing. All right, now I'm going to turn this over, and as you can see, we have 3 of the little pieces coming off the edge there. So I'm going to just take some scissors and I'm going to trim those off. I love doing this. I think it's such a fun way to add some visual interest to a card. And especially when you are doing some repetitive stamping like this, it's just a fun way to bring a different look to a card. So I really like how this turned out. Okay, so I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm making these super colorful, and instead of doing a white card base, I went with, I think this is, oh gosh, what is it? It's from Concord and Ninth. I'll link it down below. It's their new one. Oh, Creamsicle. This is the orange that you've heard me say it. It's the orange I didn't know I needed in my life. I'm not an orange fan, but this Creamsicle has my heart. It makes me want to have an orange twist ice cream every time I use it. That's what it reminds me of. Okay, foam tape is going on the back of this panel just to bump it up. Again, I have that 1/8 inch margin all the way around my card, which I just love how that looks. Then it gives that little peak of color around the edge. So cute. Okay, and then of course I want to add just a little bit more, but I don't want it to take away from all of the pretty colors that I have here. So I'm using something super subtle, and I'm using these nice dewdrops that you know I love so much. I feel like these are one of my signature embellishments because I can't get away from them. They are just a really nice final touch to a card because they add something without taking it over the top. So get some of these dewdrops, they're amazing. And like always, I've been so good about this year, but just a second, just watch what happens. Ugh, I put it on upside down. It's the first time I've done that, but you know what? I'm sure the teachers will appreciate it. It's a tired mama over here, right? Everything's just a little upside down these days. So there's the first card. I love how that turned out. Okay, so now I decided I wanted to include this footage in this video because I wanted to show you how you can create multiple cards really, really quickly. But this card was kind of a lot because I was doing repetitive stamping. So I was trying to think how I was going to do this really quick and not take all of the evening doing it. So what I decided to do was get all of my panels out. I put them all at the top of my craft mat, and then I positioned my stamp once and I stamped all 4 panels at once. Does that make sense? So you can see me, I'm moving the stamp, and then I'm going to put that stamp on each of the panels. That way I am not taking 1 panel at a time and doing 6 crayons only to move on to the next one. So I know this probably seems super obvious to you. If it does, I'm sorry, but I thought that this was a really cool idea for getting this done much quicker. Especially, like I said, I fell in love with that card, and then as I was kind of thinking through making at least 3 more of them, I thought, oh my gosh, that's going to take so much time, but it really didn't. I think by the time I was done stamping all of these crayons, gosh, I don't want to misquote myself. I want to say it was 10 minutes of stamping. And I had my favorite show on in the background, so it wasn't time that was wasted at all. So I love how this turned out. And again, if this is a tip that you already knew, then I'm glad you knew it before me, but I was really excited about this. So if you're making multiple cards, go ahead and give this a try. I like to make sure that I do all of my steps at once. So like if I'm doing a bunch of cards, I'll stamp them all at once, then I'll color them all at once. I'll attach them to my card base all at once, just like you're seeing here. So I did all my crayons all at once, but then I'm going to do all of my panels all at once. That way you're just working smarter. Once you kind of get in the mode of that step, you can kind of go quicker, and it just works really well for me. So hopefully that helps. Okay, this is the retirement card. So I wanted to do something just a little bit different than that first card that I did. So I'm grabbing this really cute congrats die, and I'll link it down below. I've had this forever and I've never used it, and now I'm kind of kicking myself because it is so cute that now I want to put it in one of my most loved little envelopes of things I want to grab for time and time again, because it's super cute. I love how just a little scripty it is, and I loved it. So I'm going to use the same die, and I'm going to do 3 additional cuts out of just 80-pound white cardstock, and I'm going to use those to go under that gold glitter layer, and it's just going to really bump this up because I'm going to have a card that has some more crayons on it, but I wanted to have my sentiment not kind of fall flat. So I wanted to make sure that that has some dimension, and this is the easiest way to add dimension instead of adding little foam squares on that thin background there. Can you imagine putting little foam squares on the back of that congrats? It would probably make me go cross-eyed. It's a little thin for me, but layering paper is something that I can do, and I find it's super effective. I just grab a stamp block so that once everything's positioned, I can just set it under a little weight there, let it set and cure while I am working on other elements of my card, and it works perfectly time and time again. So I love this gold glitter cardstock. I will link this down below. I think I need to reorder some because I'm going through it like crazy lately. It's just so gorgeous that it's one of my favorite ways to add a little excitement to a card. So same coloring, same crayons, I'm just doing something a little bit different here. And instead of scattering them, kind of, the first card I kind of had them thrown around across the card, but this time I'm going to have them in more of a proper order, if you will. I'm going to have them a little bit more organized, and I'm going to do some repetitiveness here. It's really cool because it's super pleasing on the eye. It's going to be super different than the last card. And so originally I was going to have them evenly spaced from the left to the right, but as I keep going, I realize that my spacing is kind of getting a little bit off, and I kind of just have to go with it because if you've worked with foam squares, they're really hard to peel up. Right now, I feel like my spacing is still good, and then I realize that I'm not going to make it to the end of the card with them being evenly spaced and go from edge to edge. But then this is such a happy accident because I end up really liking how this looks because I'm able to kind of tuck the sentiment, especially the little bottom of that G. As you see, I'm going to tuck that in between 2 of the crayons, and it ends up visually working out so well. And I like how it looks. It's not completely centered, but it's really working for me, and I ended up really liking it. I went and contemplated with, trimming the panel down and doing another few things just to make sure it was centered, and then I decided not to. I really liked how that little sentiment just kind of tucked in tight. It made it look very, very intentional, like it was supposed to be there, and I just loved it. Okay, I'm going to do a different card. I usually do top folding cards, but I'm not going to do that this time just because of the orientation of my card. And I'm using 110-pound cardstock this time. And I'm using my little score buddy just to go ahead and give me that little center score so I can create my card there. Okay, I'm going to add foam strips to the back here, and I'm giving it just some subtle dimension here. This is nice and thin foam tape. And again, this was actually trimmed down with 1/8 of an inch margin. I don't know that I recorded that, but you can just rest assured that I do that with each and every one of my cards. It's just my favorite way to add some interest. All right, now using that liquid glue, I'm going to go ahead and tuck that. Again, I love how it just tucks right in between those 2 crayons. It's just like it was meant to be there, and it allowed me to put the sentiment really close to the crayons, so I really loved how that looked. And you guessed it, we're going to do those dewdrops because I just can't not. They are so cute, and I love how they just give a little, just subtle, but they're I don't know. I say it time and time again. It's subtle, it's there, and I can't not put those on there. They're just super, super fun. Also, I've mentioned this little pink container. I'll link it again because it's so cute, but not just cute, but functional. I love it. I do better with my stamp this time. Now I'm focused. I always tell my kids, when you make a mistake, it's actually a good thing because then you won't make it twice, hopefully, right? It makes you kind of slow down. But there is a final card. I love this. I think it's so pretty. I love the gold glitter. And I love how everything just turned out and coordinated so well together. Again, when you find some coloring that really works for you, just go with it. And that's what I did here. I found a style and I found some coloring that I really liked and I just repeated it, right? Just if you find something you love, just do it time and time again. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you in the next video.